Hidden Object Guru here, joined by...
The Unabridged Gamer.
For a special Halloween spooktacular, we're going to be playing some, that's right, Splatterhouse. I'm a big fan of Splatterhouse. I love the original game. I got myself a TurboGrafx 16 back in the day just to get Splatterhouse. Completely worth it. Just an amazing experience all around. Love Splatterhouse. Love the remake. Love Splatterhouse 2 and 3.
Phase
Super
2.
adore.
The doll that bled.
I adore this this Xbox 360 and PS3 remake. And it's not a sequel. It is a remake. To the point where, and this is true,
You hear me? I'm right here inside your head.
I unlocked literally everything in the game. I've 100%ed everything.
You hear me?
Wow.
Which is a little ridiculous.
Oh, I'm actually glad to hear that because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, believe it or not, was talking about the collectibles because there's I'm kind of fascinated by them, which I know is a weird thing to say, but still just like... Because, for those who don't know, you collect, these torn up pictures of your girlfriend Jenny that she leaves behind for you to find her, and the thing that gets me is, it starts off with fairly standard TNA, but then over time, they actually have some that are way more emotional and, like, significant.
Honestly, you can follow, and this is the genius of this game, and one of the things that I don't know anybody talk about at the time, you can follow the entire story of their relationship by looking at the various topless photos you find in the video game. It's weird.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, because they're metalheads, it doesn't even surprise me. I've known so many metalheads who are like all about sex positivity and everything that's like, yeah, I buy that.
It's weirdly how... And again, it's a game that has topless photos as a collectible that manages to feel non-exploitative.
Another former classmate.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, this is a
That
regular
is
high school
it's
reunion.
surreal to consider that.
Spooktober instead of Shocktober. Bravo, Afrax. Most people go Shocktober. I stand by your choice. But yes, so tell me why you were interested in playing Splatterhouse.
Well, my reason for being interested is actually pretty standard. Nobody was nice to it. Everyone was beating down on it, and it's like, okay, so it did something interesting then? Because, like, so many times... I hate saying it because I feel like I'm sounding like some sort of elitist critic prick here, but, like, seriously, so many times in this industry, a really interesting game gets curb stomped, and it basically grinds down to... Yeah, it was interesting and not perfect, therefore, meh.
Yeah, well, then it's complete garbage that should be totally dismissed. Like, no, that's not how it works at all. Yay, I finally got out of a grab. Oh, the grip fighting in this game is so brutal. So yes, luckily I had an extra copy for you.
Yes, and thank you for that again.
No problem at all. When I've got more than one copy of the game, there's no reason to keep it around.
Let's make a mess. What do you say?
I'm really glad I got to help you finally play this game.
Oh, absolutely. It's the thing that gets me is it's not really the sort of game I would actually personally picture myself playing, which is one of the big ironies. Is like when I look at Splatterhouse and it's like, yeah, there's lots of gory takedowns and everything. It's like I really just I look at it and I go, I'm kind of confused as to how I'm enjoying this much. Like, I am not someone who goes gaga for God of War. The only reason I was actually interested in God of War Ascension was because, oh, well, they're doing some interesting things with the combat. And that kind of applies to a lot of games. And then I come to Splatterhouse, and it's like, this is intensely gory, yet somehow demented Jim Cummings is making this way too charming. Plus, the cartoonishness of everything is weirdly kind of making it easier for me when I play it. It's like, it doesn't nearly as much like say, for comparison, stabbing your thumbs into Poseidon's eyes from his perspective. That's some nightmare fuel.
The gore in this is much more playful than the gore in God of War. It's a lot more fun, and fundamentally, I think, and this is gonna maybe sound simplistic.
Now we're cooking.
Oh, I'm in one of the side-scrolling sections.
I actually like those.
No,
I just
they're
wish
a
they
lot
had
of fun.
checkpoints.
One thing that I just, and I can't stress this enough, what got me about God of War is, and this is why I've never played a God of War game, is, well, I played a little bit of 1 once. I was so... I found from the very moments of the first game, the character of Kratos to be so unpleasant that I could not care what happened to him. It's like, oh, so the gods murder his family, and I'm like, I kind of feel like his family had it coming to being, you know, married to and the child of that unbelievable dick. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but it's like, I'm just not on your side, Kratos. And I know the Greek gods are all scum, don't get me wrong, but you kind of seem worse than they do.
Yeah, no arguments whatsoever, and I think that's one of the things that just sticks out with it is that, like, Rick and the Mask have like not just chemistry, but they genuinely feel like, you know,
they're likable. I mean, they are. I mean, yeah, Rick, I really object to his facial hair. Like,
everyone should.
Oh no. I profoundly object to this man's facial hair. No, you should not look like that. You should make better choices with your razor. But it's covered up with a mask for 99% of the game, so it doesn't matter.
Which is also a really clever animation workaround, because, like, then they don't have to animate anyone's face, because just the mask, just gotta do the eyeballs. Which is fine, the eyes are where you get the most emotion anyway.
Oh yeah. And I actually play with the, because I got it on the Xbox, I always play with the Xbox mask, which is a full face covering thing that has green glowing eyes. I kind of love that. I will say, the gameplay, I mean, the combat isn't as tight as something like God of War. It's just not. The enemies swarm you very easily. There's not a lot of moves to deal with crowds. Like, it's not... They didn't really think through that aspect of the combat, but overall, I mean, it was not a chore for me to 100% this game. And, like, beat all of the combat arenas in addition to the main game, you know? Like, it didn't bother me at all to have to do.
If I'm gonna be completely honest here, I kind of like that it's not trying to be God of War or I'm not actually trying to go for God of War comparison there. Devil May Cry, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want Devil May Cry all of the time. This may shock somebody, but occasionally, a beat-em-up can literally just be a beat-em-up. It used to be that, you know, you didn't have to learn all these extremely elaborate combos. You could just play the game by mashing, and it wasn't horribly punishing to you for daring to do that.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, and the thing is, the game is very accessible. It's got a decent tutorial that teaches you one of your better in medias res openings you get. I mean, literally, as the game starts, there's no preamble. You've already had your guts cut out by Herbert West Reanimator, and now you're just going for it. You know, your girlfriend gets kidnapped, you get a monster mask on your face, and all within like 9 seconds, the entire game is established. And they even do that thing that is, they manage to do the thing that starts you off the game with all of the powers, but then, of course, you quickly lose them and you have to start over, right?
Oh yeah, I
without
love
it feeling
the
contrived. And I'm saying without it feeling contrived, or doing the traditional, oh, well, now we have to cut back to 2 weeks earlier before you had all those powers. No, like, there's within the narrative a solid reason for him to not be able to use all the powers yet, because he just got the mask for the first time, and his body can't contain that kind of power.
Not only that, even later on, it's a matter of establishing further how the rage mode works, in that it's essentially, you just managed to consume enough blood that you're not going to instantly die from doing this.
Yep. No, it's a good system. And this is true. This is going to sound ridiculous. So I've unlocked everything, every bit of everything in the game you can unlock. Do you know how much blood I have now?
I'm very curious. I'm going to say it's at least probably twice of whatever I've collected in Syndicate's co-op.
Boy, Ricky.
145,000 liters of blood.
Well.
Apparently I played this a lot more than I remember having played it.
Well, you do seem to collect a lot more blood in the later sections. That's the thing I noticed, is just, it seems to be, pouring in.
Oh. I do like that when you continue and choose levels, you know, like, your blood stays the same, you've got the, Your blood stays completely sorry, your blood doesn't change at all. You've got... Whoa, careful.
Welcome, Dr. West's
Oh
hand
my
job.
god, Jim Penny. Right, you got Dr. West's hand job done. Oh my god. But yes,
Can we just...
but I think the game's biggest problem, and this is an actual problem, is during the tutorial, it doesn't tell you about blood healing. It doesn't tell you that at any point you can use a, what do you call it, one power cell to drain all of the blood from an enemy and heal yourself. So it's like, if you just play the game, you think the only way to heal is by going into beast mode and doing full healing. But that's not true.
Wait a second. Actually, no, it gave me a prompt.
I know, it gives you a prompt between levels.
No.
Like,
I actually, it's in, believe it or not, it's in my update video on what's all been going on on my channel. And I got a prompt. It actually it gave me suddenly a bit more, of blood, and then I was able to recharge.
That is crazy.
I think it only triggers if you get to low health. I think that's the problem.
That might
There's
be it.
time.
Okay, I popped this monster's head. That is just excessively gory. So, I think that's the big question. Why is the gore in this game so much less dramatic? Is it the cartoony look? Is it the context for the violence? Like, why is the gore in this game so much easier to take than the gore in so many other games?
I think it partially is aesthetics, and it also, on some points, is a matter of, well, they just make it funny. Like, it's really hard to make a good horror comedy. We have a lot of crappy ones. I mean, that happens a lot where you get something awful like Stand Against Evil or some shit.
Yeah,
but you actually get a really good sense of, okay, yeah, we're all here to have a good time and laugh instead of some sort of really awkward or cringeworthy thing, which I think they had to do very delicately because, like, there's multiple takes of all the different things Jim Cummings can say to you in a demented voice, and it's like, yeah, that's significant because if they hadn't gone to the lengths of doing that, I don't think it would have landed nearly as well. And I think just having Cummings there also saves them so much because the guy can sell almost anything. So as a result,
he brings so much to this thing. I completely agree with you. Like, grab an enemy and press Y facing forward to a spike to impale. Oh, okay. I totally forgot that mechanic.
Oh,
impale guys on walls.
Yeah, that was the one thing that did give me a little squeamish, was the one where you had to jam them down into chairs with spikes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that was a bit more than I needed. That one bit.
It's good to know you can draw the line somewhere.
It ain't gonna hurt much longer. Just
Oh, did I get murdered? And then, like, there's nice little things. It's gonna sound a little strange to call this little and cute, but the way pieces of your body get torn off, and then you heal them back together by sucking up blood.
Yes.
That's a nice touch.
Not only that, but that you can actually use your arm to beat people up. That is just...
Now, picking up your own arm and beating people with it is very charming. It's interesting that they, even though Herbert West Reanimator is copyright clear, they, like, at the last moment, cop out and change the guy's name. He's still Dr. West, and he is a reanimator. But they, like, won't call him Herbert West. Not yet, Maddie. I will. And I find that a little weird, because, you know, everyone knows who Herbert West Reanimator is, right?
I know Reanimator by proxy. I'm not going to say that I know it by heart or whatever, but I get... I will say, though, that no matter what, the guy they got as West is fantastic. I never thought
so
I would... So not just that, but, like, can I say the... I know you don't usually swear on the channel. Can I say the F word?
Oh, yes, of course you can.
Okay. I love when it's right near the end and, you know, Rick yells, "Fuck you, West!" And West just, you know, his head turns around there and it's this so operatic thing. It's like, "No, Rick, fuck you!" And it is so many layers of campy over the top that it was perfect. It was,
it really is.
I think that's one of the other major wins about this entire game is just how perfectly they embrace the camp, because that's something that I've been appreciating more in watching this one YouTube channel, Good Bad Flicks, which I also think really helped set me up to be interested in Splatterhouse, because if he still did game videos, I'm sure he would have talked about it at some point.
Right.
And just, it's like, okay, yes, this is extremely lowbrow, silly nonsense, but also it makes the little metalhead in me smile, and oh my gosh, is there so much clear passion and love put into this.
Well, and I think that's one of the things I love most about it is how much these guys clearly cared about making a gore. Like, they needed the gore. The gore is the brand of the franchise. They need the gore to sell the game. I get that, but beyond that, they genuinely cared about making a very good brawler. And like I said, there's bits and pieces of the controls. Like I said, I mean, until you unlock the right skills, there's no way to do crowd control and things like that. But once you've done it, like once you've got the game going and figured out all of it, once you've unlocked everything and figured out the combat system, I mean, like you said, it's not on the level of God of War, but it's not that far behind it either.
No, it's got a lot of things going on, and it's got a lot of its own ideas. It really appreciates grappling enemies, which is something you don't see a lot of combat systems build themselves around. And also, the idea of, instead of complex combos, making special moves be reliant on blood. I like that too, because it's something you don't see a lot, and it makes you think about combat in a completely different way, because it's like, do I want to save this for when I use my ultimate charge? Do I want to heal up? Or do I want to just do a blade swing and dismember everyone in half?
Yeah, that blade swing's beautiful.
Make some all better.
Oh yeah, that's pretty gorgeous. Where you just did the super long monster arms, cut everybody in half right at the waist.
Yeah, do you do the? Yeah, you know, oh my gosh, I never thought about it. They stole that move for Venom. You know, when the Eagle Venom, I'm trying to think of it. It's not Barricade, whatever the hell his name is. The evil Venom in the Venom movie,
oh,
the other
right.
symbiote. He actually does that move.
Oh, right, he does.
I so hope that someone was just a fan of the game and they took it from there. I would be so happy if I heard that.
Well, every now and then you do see obvious video game references in movies. I mean, I don't know if you saw that second Kingsman movie, but they were like, hey, what if the bad guy has the arm from Bionic Commando? And so they just, like, and they put no design work into it beyond just putting the arm from Bionic Commando on screen. It's like, how are we doing now? I almost respected how obvious a ripoff it was. Oh, here we go. I just honestly, tearing off enemies' limbs whenever you want is such a nice feature. Like, you can constantly tear off the minor enemies' limbs, you can use them as weapons. Like, they have put so much thought into every little bit of the combat, making it as gruesome and unpleasant as possible. That's really nice stuff.
Absolutely, and it's just...
Well, there's nothing like it, and I guess that's what bothers me. Is like, it's one of those things where, on one level, I want to figure out how well it's sold, because you play it and you're like, this is perfectly good. It can't have been a huge budget game, right? There's no way this game cost a ton of money. It was made by the people who made Mark of Cree, who had a lot of experience making this kind of game on a decent budget. It doesn't have a giant amount of locations, It doesn't have a lot of really processed cutscenes. Like,
have you read the story behind the game?
Splatterhouse? No, I know nothing of the story behind it.
Okay, first of all, the whole Mark of Cree, whatever, developers, the lead guy behind that totally is part of the reason this game had such a rough launch.
Oh, no.
He kept trying to turn it into Silent Hill Mark of Cree. Okay, whatever. Seriously, there's concept art for, like, people with television heads and weird wires. It looks almost more like BioShock. It was... Namco Bandai had to basically hire everyone except the management, make a different studio, and unfortunately, and the thing is, Namco Bandai were trying hard to salvage this. Like, this isn't one of those cases where a publisher screwed over a developer or something. No, they were dedicated to trying to see this through, and I actually have to really respect them for that. But sadly, it wasn't enough. Before the game even released, they were down to just one employee handling certification. They got, according to some of the developers, when they were talking to, was it Eurogamer or Polygon or something? There is a article. If you Google it, it's like one of the first responses on Splatterhouse. That's how I found out about it. And apparently, it took everything. They got around 75% of what they wanted to done. So there's
I'm guessing they ran out of money for the future sequences.
Yeah.
I feel
It
like
just
the post-apocalypse. Yes, Horror King, it is neat when we have a guest on the show, and hopefully the Unabridged Gamer will be able to drop by more often. Now that he's got... Actually, wait, you have much less time on your hands. Forget I said anything. People were just encouraging you to... but yeah, that's great. I feel like, yeah, there is an element of unfinishedness to the future scenes, and I think it's safe to say that the whole final level is a disaster.
Okay, yes, okay, good. We can agree on that because, like, they just start throwing mini bosses at you, and then literally, unless you look around and find the hidden bonus weapon, it's unbeatable. It just is. I'm playing on the easiest friggin' difficulty setting, and I'm beating my head against the wall, thinking, "Am I going to stop playing this game I really, really enjoy because I just genuinely can't stand this last level?"
It's crazy. I mean, it is rare because I'm not gonna say I breezed through the game. There's plenty of bosses gave me a little trouble, plenty of fights I had problems with. I'm not great at the platforming, and I'd say the platforming is kind of shady in the 2D side-scrolling segments. But you know what? That's actually accurate to the original Splatterhouse. So I can only get so angry about it. But what gets me is when you get to that last sequence, it's just they thought the design is have 50 different mini-bosses constantly thrown at you, and you have to do it on an incredibly tight timeline. I don't know what they were thinking, but someone needed to tell them this just wasn't working. But now that you tell me this about the process of making the game, I feel like they just ran out of time.
I think it was both a running out of time, and I could swear the way the game ends.
Yeah.
Because, understand, you've played the other Splatterhouses. You know that if you complete the games in a certain time period, either something bad happens to Jenny or she's saved.
It's the third one that really gets into that. Yes.
Yeah, I think
2 does
they
that a
might
little, and the third one does that.
I firmly believe that was supposed to be a thing in this one, because the way the ending's written, it feels like because they have a timer mechanic and everything already, so I feel like they could have had either a Metro/Silent Hill-esque thing where there were certain criteria across the game to get, or there was just, they wanted to do it at this particular point and it didn't come through in time, so they had to cut it, and we got the cliffhanger ending that we did.
Yeah, so disappointed about the cliffhanger ending.
Because you can see exactly where it's going.
Oh yeah, totally. No, it's completely obvious where this would go next, and honestly, sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm great now. Honestly, Namco, just bring it back. I mean, we'll all buy another Splatterhouse, won't we?
Bring it to PC! For goodness sakes, bringing it to PC would be marvelous at this point, because there's a whole audience who never played it and who would appreciate it at like a budget price.
Oh, totally. And the thing is, I loaded this up, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but there are so many games out there. Like, there is so much breadth to the kind of games being made. This doesn't even look particularly bad.
Oh yeah,
That's the thing. It's a 10-year-old game, and it looks fine. Like,
it's got some janky animations here and there.
Yeah, but if this were a $30 game, right, on Steam, I would be. And if this was a game that cost $30 and came out today, I'd be like, yeah, this was a game made by a slightly limited team today. And now it's worth about $30. I'd be completely fine with that. I assume that, putting it out on PC would allow them to get the frame rate under control. Because, let's face it, you played the same game I did. There are frame rate hitches.
And it was weird when it would have a frame rate issue. That is something that did stick out to me, was like, this doesn't seem like a section where it should be lagging, although there was one point where I cut off enough limbs that there was like close to 40 different body parts flying around, so at that point I was like, okay, this time you have every excuse to have a low frame rate.
Well, something that happened to me last night, I was literally playing on the stream. They just released Earth Defense Force Iron Rain on PC, right? And the good people at D3 were nice enough to send me a copy. Thanks again, D3. By comparison, I had to buy both of my copies of Splatterhouse. So I'm just saying, ridiculous thing for me to draw the line about. But anyway, thanks again, D3, for sending that over. What interested me is it plays so much better on my PC than it ever did on the PlayStation 4 Plus. Because the PlayStation 4, I mean, it's a 6-year-old system, right? It is starting to show its age. But even with my my comparatively old, like 4 or 5-year-old video card, I still get I still get a really great frame rate on this really gorgeous game with lots of enemies on screen. And it makes me think that as I play something like this, if you were able to get a consistent 60 frames per second out of this, I think you would be really satisfied with both the graphics and the performance of this.
Especially since we have this whole scene, it's also worth mentioning, we have this whole scene now of these very small-scale horror games. I mean, one of the times I was on stream with you, it was for a puppet combo game. Exactly. It just is a whole thing now.
Yeah, I mean, people have this, selling thousands and thousands of copies of these low-budget-esque-ish horror games. That there's fun, neat horror that everyone can get in on, right? And this is a perfect example of that. I found another gramophone.
I'd lie in the darkness and hear
But that's kind of the genius of this game is it almost feels like a game before its time.
The children grow less.
You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't a lot of stuff like this out. Something that just revels in the bloodiness of it and just tries to have fun. It is a grindhouse style game. You know, and I know that that's an overused term, but here it's accurate. Yes, it's a lot like Wet, except I would say this is more polished than Wet.
Oh yeah, no question.
This is definitely a more polished experience than Wet, but you're right, it's trying to do the exact same kind of thing. And I really liked Wet, but it's a rough game.
Oh yeah.
In a way that this just isn't. This is extremely playable. And Wet, I love, and is full of great ideas, but it's not playable like this is.
Oh yeah, no
also,
question.
Wet had Malcolm McDowell.
It did, and it sadly underused him. Like, the man made Killzone be one of the most hilarious games ever. How can you not utilize him more, Wet?
I know, right? But good cast, lots of fun performances, there's some really interesting gameplay mechanics. But a lot of it was rough, and it felt like a situation where, Wet 2, if they had been able to take the lesson they learned with that first game and try it again, I really feel like they would have had something special.
Oh, that one actually almost happened. That's another one that hurts. I learned recently, the next one, they planned on doing the whole it being number 2, translating to it being a double feature. It was going to have 2 different campaigns.
Aww.
Yeah, it looks perfect, but the thing is, and the thing that gets me is that the developer behind it still exists, Behavior Interactive. They're doing Dead by Daylight. They clearly have enough capital now that I would think...
Whoa, hold on. You're telling me that Dead by Daylight is made by the people who made Wet?
Yep.
I had no idea.
Yep. Behavior Interactive.
Oh my god. That's so cool.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like, just talk to Bethesda and convince them to give you the IP back. You could buy it back.
It's not like Bethesda wants to do anything with it.
No, they probably have forgotten that they even own it.
Have I ever watched an Indian thriller film? No, I have never watched an Indian thriller film. Unless you count Indian Old Boy, which I don't, but I have watched Indian Old Boy. India remade Old Boy. Illegally, obviously. But they did. It was weird. Because you can't do any of the really rough stuff that Old Boy did, because it's India. And they're still pretty puritanical there. There's a ton of stuff they weren't able to do, but it's the plot of Old Boy run through, the Indian sensibilities. And it's a lot of fun.
We're never blessed with children.
But anyway, yeah, so it fits with this, sleazy, grindhouse, ultra-violent,
Make
but
their lairs in its
weirdly kind of,
darkest corners.
not low stakes,
Subject's
but
screams disturb my
not,
concentration
there's
while I'm
no,
working. Solution?
there's no, oh well, this is a definitive experience. This is the only game you have to play feel to it. They're like, we get we're just a confection. We're just something fun for you to play. So let's have as much fun as possible and just get into it. And
Yes.
both of them embraced how much fun they were in a way that so many other way more self-serious games were never able to.
And I think that weirdly makes you more endeared to just like the entire experience, all of the story and everything that's going on in Splatterhouse. Because let's be real here, I cared way more about what happened to Rick and Jenny than a lot of other people in a lot of other games because, you know, they're actually human beings. There's a personality. It's not just, well, we have to save the world because we have to save the world. That's never
you're
a
right.
compelling reason.
This guy just, you're right, that fundamentally, this guy just wanting to get his fiancée back is the central motivation of the game. Yeah, he's also trying to save the world from a mad scientist who's in league with, you know, eldritch forces. But fundamentally, he has a very smaller set of priorities that are the focus of his quest.
The rituals
And he
require
becomes,
sacrifices.
and again, the plot is that he becomes the tool of dark forces because of his desires, but fundamentally, you understand where he's coming from and why he makes the decisions he makes.
Everything I need. The children consume
And
human
again,
flesh
because
with
they're
much
just such
relish.
likable, relatable people,
I tried it once.
you get on board with their journey in a way I was never able to get on board with Kratos. Although apparently now that Kratos is a middle-aged dad, he's much more relatable. Also voiced by Christopher Judge. Yeah, they swapped out the voice actor, now it's Christopher Judge.
Well, he's been.
I've made Lady Guru here perk up her ears because she's a Stargate superfan, and everybody loves Christopher Judge. And I'm like, yeah, Christopher Judge is good. I'm not gonna debate that point. The man's a miracle worker. He made a lot with a little. Take that, you
Boy.
No, I'm a big fan. But anyway, yeah, like it's the kind of thing where it's like, do we start a petition? Do we just start, you know, trying to email Namco and ask them about this? Because why are you guys not working on this? Why did you guys let Splatterhouse just become a live fallow as a, you know, as an IP for? I mean, think about it. So Splatterhouse comes out in what, like '89. Then like 91 and 92, you get Splatterhouse 2 and 3. And then it just completely disappears from the public mind that nobody hears about or talks about Splatterhouse again for 11 years. Then,
Unless you count that weird kids game.
when After Graffiti, yeah. That was a lot of fun, but I think that came out around the same time as Splatterhouse 2. So, like, it wasn't actually later on. But you're right, there was a third Splatterhouse game I often forget about. The Kids Splatterhouse.
Yes, for the kids!
You know, Splatterhouse, but for kids! He fights Jason and The Fly and Freddy Krueger. It's all very copyright not cleared, and you can do that in Japan, because apparently they have no copyright laws there, but they could never release it anywhere else.
Dr. West, it's
There we go.
big.
It interests me, right? So, basically, you hear nothing. Zero from Splatterhouse for a decade, and then, out of nowhere, Resident Evil 4 decides to include a bunch of tributes to Splatterhouse in it. I'm like, that was out of left field. Not only are there, you know, the Dr. Salvadors, but in one of the Mercenaries arena modes, they have a character who is the Chainsaw Biggie Man from Splatterhouse. Like the chainsaw, the dual-arm chainsaw boss. It's a giant man with a bag head and a double-bladed chainsaw that is clearly meant to be a reference to that character from Splatterhouse. And you're like, people at Capcom remember and care about Splatterhouse, and that had to keep us going for 6 more years until this thing came out.
Hold it right there, Rick.
And now we're back in yet another giant drought of
Is that
a
what you're
drought
gonna
of
say?
content where no one is working on it. No one's trying to sell Splatterhouse games.
Oh,
No one is
you
putting any
raggedy little
effort
fucker.
into,
Let's see what
you
you're
know,
made
encouraging
of.
people to check out this brand. I just don't get it.
Yeah, and that's actually been an issue with Namco Bandai I've found in general. It's just that they seem to have a very weird content strategy in that I'm not sure that they have one. Because, like, them releasing Code Vein, that they already have From Software on board, but ever since Sekiro, it's like, oh crap, there's a chance they could go somewhere else. Okay, somebody else think of something Souls-likey. We'll put anime vampires in it.
Well, it seems to be making them a lot of money, so there you go.
Oh yeah, oh, I have no doubt it is, and just I've heard various things. Like I've not always heard the best thing, but I've heard various things. So it's like they're at least trying, and that is the other thing that I got from the article is they really want to make. Whenever they work on a game, they seem to want to make it work. It's not just a random thing to them. It's just that they have a very odd scattershot approach to choosing what games and IPs that they're working on at any given point. Because, like, whenever there's a Humble sale or whatever, and it's for Namco Bandai, just look at the games that are on offer, and then compare that with any other publisher. There's, like, no consistency whatsoever.
Yeah, there's no... They are so all over the map. Because there'll be something like Code Vein, it'll be Dark Souls, then there'll be a bunch of Gundam games, then there'll be some, like... didn't they do Little Nightmares?
Yeah, they did Little Nightmares, and that's getting a sequel.
Yeah, and it's getting a sequel. It's like... They have the weirdest, most eclectic mix, and they have a bunch of JRPGs for sale. And they have... Oh, did they put out the new Ace Combat? I think they put out the new Ace Combat.
I forget if they did. I think they might have.
No, it might have been Konami again. I don't remember who did Ace Combat.
Oh, it wasn't Konami. I know it wasn't Konami, so if it wasn't Namco Bandai, then I think...
Probably Namco Bandai. That's the point. Like, they have this... You're right, an incredibly random-seeming mixture of games they're going to put out, and you never really know what given that they're so all over the map, why not take a chance on bringing back Splatterhouse? Doesn't it just make sense? Like, this is exactly the kind of thing that people are craving, and who knows, maybe it'll do well enough to finally get us that next part of the story.
But it would be nuts.
It would be, wouldn't it? So, did you? Are you going to be doing, since you're doing your second look articles, are you going to be doing another one about Splatterhouse and saying this thing really deserves that kind of attention?
Unfortunately, Splatterhouse isn't going to be on the lineup. I can say that my next one is based on a franchise that Warner Brothers actually had a hand in. That's what the last one they're going to have is... It's a Warner Brothers property that's horror, and it's going to be interesting. Yeah, I'm very excited to be talking about that one. I'm also extremely nervous because it's a subject matter that I've wanted to touch on with that particular franchise for a while now. It's something that I've never seen anyone talk about. And people have talked about aspects of this franchise. They have discussed it, but I've never seen anyone do quite what you see them doing this one, and I'm having to stay vague because I know it's going to be coming out this Thursday, so you will get to see it, will get to experience it, and I will do my utmost to ensure that it is the shiniest article possible. But no, Splatterhouse will be getting a video on Chunks. UnabridgedGamer is going to be getting videos.
Nice.
It's only a little bit in flux. I'll be real with everybody. It's a little bit in flux, but I am excited for the prospect. There's some real potential here for some very exciting stuff for UnabridgedGamer. I'm surprised to say that completely by accident, a lot of zombies. Like, I'm going to have a lot of zombie games to talk about this October. That was not planned. I'd like to say, oh yes, it's specifically supposed to be like some kind of cool temper or whatever. It's like, nope. Just somehow end up with lots of zombies.
Stop zombies. Well, I'm glad to see that you're going to give this game one of your more in-depth looks, because I think it absolutely deserves it, and, you know, I'm going to let people know about that when it comes out. You're going to, hopefully include that wonderful behind-the-scenes stuff that you're telling me, because, it's so frustrating to know that that it was put in the hands of a developer. I mean, as you say, just the head guy, but a developer who didn't understand what they had with this. You know, like, they really had something special with this franchise, and they could have, if they had just trusted the franchise. And I'm not going to say that they necessarily thought they were, but maybe thought they were a little better than Splatterhouse. And if they hadn't, maybe it would have been the success it deserved to be.
Yeah, it's always a shame when you hear something like that, but I'm just glad that it did make it to release, because there are so many games like this where they just never
actually come out. It's true. Yeah, like where you hear about a game, you're excited about a game, and then it never makes it there. One of my all-time favorite stories about that was, for the life of me this day, I can no longer remember the name. Someone who said, we're making a zombie game, it's Grand Theft Auto, but with zombies. A town full of crazy monsters. You're gonna have to like drive a car around and find all sorts of to find weapons and do missions. There's gonna be zombies everywhere to drive over, and this is years before something like. I remember this. Probably 2004, 2005. They were trying on that. And it's one of those things where it's like it had two really good E3 showings, but for whatever reason, something happened behind the scenes, and they couldn't make the game happen.
Yeah. I do like that at least in this case we can say that, not with this one, but with Wet, we can be like, oh yeah, by the way, yes, the developers did survive. They changed names like 3 times, but they survived.
Yeah. That is nice. Whereas the Mark of 3 guys, Bottle Rocket, I want to say?
Yeah, Bottle Rocket was what the company, I think that was either the company's name or what they renamed when they were like, okay, and now you're free of your crazy boss.
I'm very sad they didn't make it. Oh, apparently Horror King has a question for us.
Oh, hold on, let me see.
Alright, it's coming up in a moment.
Watching, waiting, watching. Also, can we agree that this giant boss was frickin' fantastic?
No, their Poltergeist boss is amazing. Like, what a great choice. It is just it's again a way to do something really interesting while completely keeping in tune with the aesthetic and the history of Splatterhouse. Because the Poltergeist boss in the original was one of the most interesting things a side-scrolling game has ever done. One of the most surprising, strange, and interesting. And you're like, okay, well now we're doing a more traditional brawler than the original was. How can we do that? Oh, come on, are you kidding me? Apparently if you lose one phase of a boss fight. Same answer I always give Horror King. Best underrated low-budget horror movie is Lake Mungo, a movie everyone has to see.
Horror King, in my respect, I'm sorry, I'm just going to disappoint you here. I actually don't do well with horror movies. Like, it's ironic, because we're sitting here talking about Splatterhouse and everything's like, literally any other type of media, I'm fine. But movies is something that I'm actually working on. Like, at some point, I am going to watch The Shining with my mom, and that's a promise to her because it's her favorite movie of all time, and that's the thing. She is the horror movie buff. I think she even saw, like, that one Ghoulies or whatever with the green guy who was coming out of the toilet and everything. Like,
that is called Ghoulies, yeah.
Yeah, she has watched all sorts of stuff like that because, as a kid, she just, she was fascinated by it. She was one of those 80s kids, so it's like, I know a lot of this stuff, and I can reference a lot of it, and like I said, watching Good Bad Flicks has taught me a lot about it, but there's something about it being live action. The live action bit really bothers me. Like, I've watched Dead Space. The Dead Space movies I've watched, I have the one on DVD because it's like, this I can appreciate, this isn't going to bother me as much, because when it's animated, once again, it's not nearly as bad. Pretty much any horror game is pretty good so long as, like, the content isn't actually, like, objectionable, and as such, the best low-budget horror game I can recommend that I actually got something out of and that genuinely gave me some, like, actual vibes, Dark Places. It's free on Steam. It was literally someone's first game in FPS Maker, and it somehow manages, when you're playing it late at night, just play it late at night just by itself, let the music just basically chanting on in the background, and like, it genuinely creeps you out.
It's called Dark Places?
Yes, I believe it's called Dark Places. I can look it up on Steam and see specifically, but it's the same person behind it sadly got like confident from that, and then ended up actually doing a much worse game for a few bucks called Doomed. Yes, very subtle reference there. Where it basically imagined the world's worst Xeroxed copy of Doom 2016. Like, there's an execution where you use a chainsaw to take off somebody's head, and it's just like, this is taking forever. Do you mind if I go do my taxes all a while? Because clearly you don't need me here for this.
Oh, that's terrible.
Whereas the first thing, like, he's got platforming, there's this weird esoteric environment, like there's just sudden gaps, and it's supposed to be set in your mind. So as a result, all these creepy monsters and everything, it's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of quaky. I like the sort of very 90s heft to these weapons. This works. So I don't know what happened there.
Wow.
You still don't trust
But
me, do you,
just
Rick?
like that guy managed to very luckily create something interesting.
Trusting me is the only
And
chance you
like as I
got.
said, it's free, so you can try it. If you think it's garbage, that's fine. It's like in terms of the lowest budget thing I can recommend.
How long would it take someone to play, do you think?
I never finished all the way through because it's FPS Maker, the save game system is really finicky.
It's me.
But I imagine you could pretty much get a gist of whether or not you're going to like it or not in like under an hour.
I see it all now.
And from there on, it's like there's more levels. Also, there were puzzles, like genuine puzzles that required memorization. I think it genuinely wouldn't have been as good of a game if he knew what he was doing. It was truly a stroke of just amazing dumb luck, whoever this person was who made it.
To follow us.
Which I feel like it's the most backhanded compliment I could give, but like, really, I mean it. He like
Well, you got one of those
did
faces.
so much that does work, but also, goodness me, clearly when you're actually trying, it is not going to work as well. It's sort of like how, you encounter someone where when they're drunk they can sing perfectly, but when they're not drunk they can't hold a tune to save their life.
Okay. Yeah, it's one of those things where just instinct took over and made an incredible result.
Hey.
Maybe one day I'll get one and
Instant
look like you're having fun.
luck. Who can say?
Dr. West?
Oh, we're doing a little flashback.
Hello? Anyone here?
Yes, you could say he was doomed from the start.
Concert at the Arkham Bowl tomorrow, didn't I?
You betcha. Shadow over
See,
Arkham
they
rocks
go
through the
to,
solar
they go
eclipse.
to
Tell me you got
Miskatonic
backstage
University.
passes too, and I'll
That's
marry
great.
you right now.
The one thing I will say,
Such a nice touch.
I will say that there is one thing about the Splatterhouse cinematics that I kind of would have liked.
Phase
Yep.
3.
I would have liked to see
In the
their
shadow
whole
of the
actual,
abyss.
because clearly someone actually recorded the full intro without all the cuts and jarring things. I would like
Yeah.
to be able to see that.
Uncut version.
Yes, because clearly something happened there, and there's a lot of stuff going on there, and I'd like to see
Take
it.
it slow. Yeah, that's
That might be an interesting thing to try to edit
You
together.
okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, the thing is, you
Because
could
dead
try and
reviews
edit it
was
together,
fine.
but there's some stuff that just still...
It's a portal. They open up in places where the barriers of
Yeah, you're
reality
right.
are
There's
weaker.
even if you
Any idea
manage
where
to
we
get
are?
all of the pieces,
Could be
there's
the
just stuff that's
past.
not in
Could be
there.
another world.
Yeah, and clearly
That's the
it
thing
was
about
rendered,
hijacking
it
a
just
portal.
got chopped up.
Encryption.
That's one of the other situations where it's like, I'm wondering, was this an intentional chopping, or was this random?
Yeah.
And can I add something that's kind of off topic, but I just kind of have to mention?
Of course, we're wrapping this up. This is the perfect time to digress.
Well, it doesn't have to do with Splatterhouse, but it has to do with something that's, about as intense.
Okay.
So, I'm finally trying Lego Star Wars 2 on DS, because it was like for
I
a buck.
completely
at
see the logic in calling that as intense as Splatterhouse.
So here's the thing. In the Death Star section where you are R2-D2 and C-3PO, because they're not like, I'm gonna be honest here, I think the DS version might actually be a better version than the home console port. They seem to be a lot more clever about certain things, and the AI is way less obtuse. Because the main home console game, it's near impossible to ever play anything in that game without getting curb stomped by 50 stormtroopers whenever you so much as breathe.
Yeah, there's a
Well-
lot of Star Wars games that have Star Wars Legos that have that exact problem.
But
They're just swarmed all the time. Then you can't really take a moment to appreciate what they've done with these levels.
but the
But
thing
anyway,
with
you were saying.
Yes, the thing with this one is, there was a panel where I could interact as R2-D2. and I was doing it casually to just keep my hands idle while we're talking, and yeah, it blew up a planet with the Death Star.
What?
A computer panel opens up, and you see a planet being blown up by the Death Star.
And wait, did you as R2-D2 cause
Yes.
that planet to get... Oh my god!
That's in this game as a joke!
That is something you shouldn't be joking about.
This is the children's game, and I just decimated an entire society!
Yeah, that's horrific.
So now you see why I say it's about as intense!
Yeah, no, there's nothing that bad in Splatterhouse, I'll say that for sure.
I just don't know how to process that. It's like, I'm just idly, playing along. It's like, oh, this is so cute. And then it just suddenly, okay, by the way, you're a murderer now.
I would say more than a murder. A mass murder.
Yeah, Hitler has your phone number now.
Alright, so that's going to be it for our discussion of Splatterhouse. Thank you so much, Unabridged, for joining me for this.
Oh, it's been
As
a
you can
blast.
say, I am a big fan of this game. I'm glad you enjoyed it too. I'm very looking forward to the content you're making on it. Would you like to direct people to where they can see your other stuff?
Yes, you can find me both at UnabridgedGamer on YouTube and also as Second Look on The Escapist. I also do reviews that nobody's ever happy with, and other such good content for The Escapist. So you can find me both those places, or you can follow me at UnabridgedGamer on Twitter, where occasionally I might actually mention where I'm streaming, if I ever actually have time to stream again, once I figure out, also how to sneak in time to sleep.
Okay. So yeah, he's got a lot going on, is our big takeaway with this one. Seriously though, thank you for dropping by. I've been the Hidden Object Guru. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. If you had a good time and you'd like to see more, there's buttons for that coming up. There's plenty of stuff that Unabridged and I have done together. We've got, you can find that often in the co-op section, or just search the channel for Unabridged's name, and it will come up. We'll see you back here for more just excessively gruesome games, but until then, I'm going to say au revoir.
I was taken